Hello, all you psychonauts and cosmic thoughts. It's a rolling Zaloon. Now, today, I would like to share with you a story that took place after my senior year of high school. And it was, for me, the summer of Sid. In total, I probably dropped about 7 times. And now that might be a lot to some people, and that might be a little to some people, depending on who you ask. But to me, that was a 700% increase from the year before. Now, this is the story of one of those times. And I need to add some context for the story, right? So about halfway through my summer, a few of my friends and I had gotten tickets to see this guy Scarlord. Now, the genre of music this guy puts out is sort of a screamo rap. And this guy was more edgy than King Arthur's Excalibur, right? This guy was on the edge. And it was his first show in the US, right? So me and the boys were hyped. So much so, I decided to get some Adderall. And from one of our other friends at school. And the plan was to drop at this concert. Finally, the day rolls around, and we all got in our car and showed up to the show. I popped, but only one of my other friends decided to join me, and everyone else was smoking some of that creator's cabbage. Anyways, I divulge. We went in, the show started, and moshed for 4 hours straight. I had non-stop energy. The music was flowing through my veins. And at one point, we bum rushed the stage. We're fucking jumping like kangaroos next to this guy. It was insane. Finally, the show ended, and we packed up and went home. And I could not have had a more blessed experience. It was awesome. It was amazing. 10 out of 10. Now, here's where the real story begins. 2 days later, I get a message in the morning from a friend asking if I would like to see this guy, Playboi Carti. Now, I'm not the biggest Playboi Carti fan, but the tickets were cheap, and I was in a spontaneous move. Plus, Sheck West was opening, and this was the summer that Mo Bamba had come out, right? It was hype. So I'm like, count me the fuck in. And as I said, my friends hadn't taken all of the Adderall, so I had some left over. I also had some acid left over from some prior trips. Now, I cannot stress this enough. Do not mix the two of these together. It is a horrible, horrible combo. But at the time, I didn't know any better, and I thought to myself, what could go wrong? Well, I'll tell you what could go wrong. My friend pulls up and we start driving to the venue. We parked and got out, and everyone in line was under 25. Now, up to this point, I had not been to a show where it was such a specific age demographic. I was beyond surprised. But we hop in line, and we're standing there, and I feel my heart beat faster and faster and faster and faster and faster, and every second that went by, my blood was running a fucking 10K through my body, and the shit in my body was flowing like Niagara Falls. My dick was as thick as an oak tree, but as small as a peanut, admittedly. Then the walls outside of the venue started to breathe, and I haven't seen shit since, and shit like this before. It was insane. The best way to describe the texture was like a speckled, bumpy looking. It looked like my face, it looked like my acne-ridden face in middle school, right? It was not nice. So I'm sitting there trying not to have a heart attack and keep my cool, and finally the line starts to move. Now, I didn't have anything on me, but the security guard at this place looked as though they had just broken out of maximum security. These people were fucking sketched, and my pupils must have been fucking flying saucers, just pitch black. But they didn't say anything and let us in. Let me get some fucking water real quickly. Hydration is important. Now, I'd never been to this venue before, but if you live in San Diego, you may know the Soma Theater. This is that. If you have been, then you know whoever designed this place could not have put any less thought into the ventilation. I mean, even before the show started, everyone was head to toe in sweat. And it felt as though you were breathing in air from a sauna your naked uncle and all of his friends were sitting in after a long workout. It was hot. And it did not help that I was also on acid, and I could literally feel every oxygen molecule being absorbed by my lungs. Anyways, finally, after what felt like days, Sheck West appears on stage. And you know it's about to get lit. He starts ever so subtly. I got hoes calling a young man's phone. And people went ape shit. And I do this massive jump into the air. Land it perfectly. And I do another massive jump into the air. But this time I felt a little bit lighter. And I'm like, oh shit. I pat my pocket where my phone should have been, but it's not there. And immediately a wave of anxiety rolls over me. And I'm like, fuck. And I look down and I start touching the ground looking for it, but there's people dancing around me and moving, and it's dark, and it did not take long for me to realize that that was not gonna work, right? It was gone. Now, if you're on acid, you may know or have experienced what are called acid loops. This is where your brain repeats the same thought over and over and over again in your head, and it is damn near impossible to get out of it, right? So I stood still for a moment, and I was like, no one would have stolen my shitty iPhone 5. If I dropped it, somebody would probably give it to the front desk. I have faith in humanity. Somebody would do that, please. So I'm like, forget about it. And with all of my willpower, I just pushed the thought out of my head, and I was like, this is not going to ruin the night. So I had no choice but to dance. And dance I did. There were huge mosh pits forming, people crashing into each other, and it was pure pandemonium. Amazing. And at one point I look up, and now keep in mind I'm still tripping, but I swear I see a body being lifted up and pushed over the front barriers of the concert. And I kid you not, it was so hot that people were passing out and being thrown over the front barriers. And I'm like, holy shit, this is crazy. Now, when this had happened, I had actually gotten quite close to the front of the stage. A hard thing to do when it's packed so tightly. And I'm vibing and I'm chilling, and then suddenly, my stomach does a triple fucking backflip. And I'm like, oh shit, this isn't good. 3 seconds later, it does the same thing again. And I'm like, oh fuck, I know what's coming. And I turn and I start pushing people out of the way. And here's the funny thing, right? I'm trying to get to the back. Here's the funny thing. I'd push somebody, and their immediate reaction was anger, right? Like, what the fuck? Why are you pushing me out of the way? Whoa. And then they'd get a look at my face, and they would jump back and quickly get out of my way. I mean, I must have looked so grotesque that the fucking Babadook would have beaten me in a fucking beauty competition. I was hideous. It's disgusting. And at this point, my stomach is like a fucking boulder rolling down a hill, spinning at fucking Mach 5. Finally, I fucking push my way out, making it out of the crowd, and barely finding a trash can just before I start throwing my guts up. Now, let me tell you, there is an image still to this day, right, 2 or 3 years later, of me being hunched over a trash can with a waterfall of puke coming out of my mouth. And because I'm on acid, even after I had stopped throwing up, I'm staring at the bottom of this trash can, watching my throw up move around as if it's got a mind of my own. It is terrifying. I still have nightmares, man. And I finally finished throwing up. And I get myself together and I find a water fountain. And I kid you not, I tasted the best water I have ever tasted in my life. My body gets up and does a fucking standing ovation for me. It gives me the fucking Medal of Honor. It is like, thank you, this is what we needed. This is the nectar of gods. Bless. And I'm like, oh shit. Well, I'm feeling good. I'm about ready to head back out of the lobby and into the show. And no way I'm gonna go back into the mosh pit, right? I go to the back and I find a place to sit overlooking the crowd. And I'm like, I'm not getting up from here until this is over. And I'm sitting there and watching the show, and suddenly, and at one point, a guy kind of jumps up and sits next to me. And I'm like, hi, and he's like, hi, we do our greetings, and he looks at me and he's like, you're on acid, right? And I'm like, how the fuck do you know I'm on acid? And he's like, this is the acid section of the concert. And he points to a guy sitting a little further down on the railing, and he's like, he's on acid. Points to another guy, and he's like, he's on acid. And then he points to me, and he's like, you're on acid. And I'm like, you motherfucker, you got me. And we laughed and sat back and went on. And the rest of the show actually went all right. People started filing out, and I found my friend, and I told him everything that had happened, and he laughed his fucking balls off. And we called my phone, and to my fucking delight, somebody picked up. And it was a security guard who had been given it by somebody. My faith in humanity had been restored. And we found my phone. It had this massive fucking crack down the middle of it. But I'm fucking happy, man. I am happy. And that was about it. That about wraps it up. The moral of the story is do not take acid and Adderall at a concert. And drink lots of water. And until next time, deuces.